Ralf Bauer, great guitarist, great composer. Thank you for talking to us. And first of all, I wanted you to introduce yourself basically and tell us what you have been doing in these days, your composition activities, your guitarist activities, and educational as well.
Okay. My areas in music are lute, guitar, and composition.
Mm-hmm.
And my current projects are house concerts with violin, poetry, guitar, and I wrote compositions for film and TV. For example, Malcolm in the Middle.
So you perform mostly in house concerts, which I know it's a big tradition in Germany, isn't it? In German-speaking countries, particularly. It's very interesting to see how it's still it's basically an 18th, 19th century tradition that's continued.
Right.
So, do you have a series of concerts?
Here in my village, I have a concert in May. A house concert, but it's very difficult in these times to have concerts. You know it. Yes.
So during COVID, you couldn't play any concerts, basically.
Yes, very difficult.
Yeah, house concerts. Yeah. If concert halls was difficult, I can imagine house concerts.
I have one because it's a friend of mine. There is no problem.
Yes. And did you compose a lot during these lockdowns?
Yes, I did a lot compose. Besides the house concerts and lessons, I composed about over 100 pieces and uploaded in Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. That's my work today, because
all right, yes,
many people can hear the music.
Of course, yeah. It's easier to spread your creations, right? And you said you also play the lute, right? And of course, speaking of Germany and German traditions, the lute tradition in Germany is absolutely huge, right?
Yes.
Do you play mostly Baroque music, I imagine? But do you have ever had any experience of composing for the lute as well?
Yes, I have. I composed for lute, but only two or three pieces, because there are differences between Renaissance lute and Baroque lute.
Mm-hmm.
They have different tunings, and I most compose for guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is less interests for lute.
For lute, yes. And have you recorded some of your compositions on the lute as well?
Some lute compositions recorded on my...
Great. And we were talking earlier with Mauro Bonelli, who took part in the last season of WGC. Mauro Bonelli, a great guitarist, great composer as well, from Italy, from Genova. And he partnered with a maker to produce an electric arch lute.
Yes.
Which is, have you seen?
I know this electric arch lute.
It's incredible, isn't it? Such an interesting instrument, such a hybrid animal, isn't it?
Arch lute is a wonderful instrument.
It's a wonderful. Yes. Yeah, and have ever had any experience with this electric old instrument?
No, with electric not. I played the normal buildings of this instrument.
So you mentioned that you play the lute, you play the guitar, and we know about the huge tradition in your country for both instruments, right? Mm-hmm. First the lute and then the guitar. And in your own cultural background, how did these instruments play any sort of role growing up as a musician or as a person in general? Have you ever played other instruments apart from lute and guitar?
Other instruments besides lute and guitar?
Yes.
Yes, I'm a drummer. I play djembe and drums.
Okay, cool. And which genre of music?
Jazz.
Ah, wonderful. I've never seen you playing drum.
No. I make much music with African drummers, djembe.
Oh, I see.
And improvisation.
So the work you wrote for WGC, one very interesting aspect of the work, in my opinion, Metamorphose, is that it mixes elements from very old music and very new music, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more what inspired you in composing Metamorphose?
You inspired me.
Wow. Okay.
I can say when I came in contact with Fabrício Mattos, you know him, and I heard your guitar playing, I composed an arpeggio composition for you in the style of the chaconne of Johann Sebastian Bach. I called this composition Metamorphosis because it transforms tonally several periods, always presenting itself in a new light, and returning to its origin, to the beginning. You know this piece.
Yes.
The Metamorphosis is the art of stable transformation. Each new phase calls for the next. I intended to compose an arpeggio very difficult and very quick.
Yes. You succeeded because it's a super fast and super difficult piece. It's not a single arpeggio, but it changes all the time, right? Following the title of the piece. Sometimes in the middle of, like, there are thousands of notes, right? And we will watch later, so people will be able to see to feel the drama of the right hand particularly. But what I always find interesting, I still play this piece, and what's always I always found interesting is that there are millions of notes, and then in the middle of this you can hear like some very clear melody or some very clear very clear bass, very clear conduction of the harmony, or which happens naturally. So it's very well constructed. So you can say that who made the piece knew what he, or in this case you, were doing, right? Do you think that a non-guitarist composer would be able to compose a piece of such intricacy, like that's very complicated technically and also very accomplished in terms of musical elements?
Oh, that's difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are much good composers from guitar, but I compose in old style. I'm not I favorite not the modern style.
Right.
And I believe because I studied lute, there is much from the lute I can with the guitar.
As people will see, the work is not so long, but when you play it, it feels like 15 minutes long. And in practice, because it's 15 minutes worth of notes, right?
Yes.
And have you composed anything of the same sort? You know, a technical challenge or something else? Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I have one composition, Toccata. It's a little bit of the same, because I found a new technique in the right hand. It was the ring finger of the A, like in the lute. It's from the lute. The arpeggio with only with A, with
going up and down, or
Yes.
just one direction? Ah, okay.
Yes, and then I composed another work. It's Toccata.
I see. And was this after or before the Metamorphose?
After.
After. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Yes. You have experience with old music, you have experience with new music, with, like, as a drummer, even if it's not, if it's a hobby, but it's
Good for rhythm.
you have good for rhythm, exactly. Although you are not so connected to technology as many other composers, you, as you say, you do things the old style, right? But do you see how other areas of human knowledge can still collaborate with music? Or do you have any projects, or do you have any ideas of how to collaborate with other areas?
For example, with a guitar, you can play chords and different melodies in different tunings. So you can use it well in therapy. For example, sounds with solfeggio frequencies. Solfeggio frequencies are frequencies who make the body calm, and it has a healing effect. Because the healing effect is because our cells and organs bring it in a harmony vibration. It's difficult to explain. But the solfeggio frequencies are, for example, 396 hertz or 417 hertz. And the cross sum must always be 3, 6, or 9. And also music of the Renaissance and the Middle Age are tuned in solfeggio. That is a good example for medicine and for
I see.
psychotherapy.
So you still have some work that involves music and kind of medicinal application of music, but using this more holistic approach.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And is there? Do you also draw some inspiration from, like, Asian cultures, from Asian philosophies, in any way as well? Yeah, like Indian, Chinese.
I have contact with one of the best tabla player in the world. Nickel Grosch is his name. And I studied with tabla, and they think in another way of music than as here in Europe. And it was very interesting what I have learned.
I see.
Yeah.
And have you ever, like, been to these countries and have ever had any local experience?
Sometimes I gave concerts only with Asian temple instruments. They have the same tunes.
I see.
And I gave concerts and in form of healing experiments.
Oh, wonderful. And why are you living in Germany?
I live near Cologne.
Near Cologne. Okay. It's a village, you said. It's a small town.
Yes, it's a village out of Cologne. It's named Unkel.
Okay.
It's a village near the Rhine.
So it's far from big city centers. It's very peaceful, apparently. Yes. So it's very nice to work with healing and to have this kind of compose, of course, I can imagine.
Compose for Fabrizio.
Oh yeah, wonderful, even better. So the country in general, musicians in Germany are recovering. Are concerts back now? Is there like a renewed interest in live events, you feel, or do you think that house concerts as you do?
Interests are great after lockdown. The interest is very great.
Okay, so Ralf, it was really nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work for WGC as well, which is on this CD here, WGC Beyond, this one. And you will get your copies very soon, and I hope you like it.
And I send you the toccata, because the technique...
Yes, please do. Yes. And do you have a website where you put these scores or something like that?
Yes, the toccata is on my website.
Oh, okay.
And some other piece.
So whoever goes to your website will have this.
My website is my name, Ralf Bauer, and composer, and then you have my website. Yes,
wonderful. So I hope more people will be interested in playing Metamorphose and the toccata as well.
Yes,
these technical challenges. Yes, and thank you for collaborating with WGC. Thank you for your time with us.
Nothing.
And we hope we can collaborate again in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Até quando você vai aguentar esses juros altíssimos? Até quando vai aceitar pagar por 3, mas ficar com apenas uma casa? Até quando não vai enxergar que um consórcio pode ser uma opção de investimento? Coisa mais sem cabimento. Até quando vai acreditar que para ser moderno tem que ser só digital? Não é melhor ter serviços online e, se precisar, atendimento presencial? Até quando você vai esperar para falar com a gente? Uma única marca, há 30 anos, especialista em consórcio. A Demicon.